I'm Lisa Camilleri. My guest today is Tarek Momen from Egypt. You joined PSA in 2005 at the age of 17. Your highest world ranking is 3, and you're currently ranked 4 in the world. You are the current world champion. So thanks for joining me here today at Squash Alchemy.
It's my pleasure, Lisa. Thank you so much.
So I think we'll go right back to the start. And if you could let us talk to us a little bit on how your squash journey started, how old you were, and what kind of training you did, from it as a junior.
I was I think I was about 5 or 6 years old when I first held a squash racket. It wasn't by choice. It was my parents. They bought me a racket and they signed me up for squash at my club. I won't I won't be honest if I say I was so keen on playing squash at the beginning. I used to play football with my friends, and squash was kind of the sport that was taking me away from my friends, so I wasn't so happy about it in the beginning. And I wasn't fully committed as well. For the first couple of years, I would play probably twice a week. But then at the age of 7, maybe 8, I started to like give it a big push in terms of training. I would at least commit 5 days a week, 5 or 6 days a week of training. Um, and yeah, when I first picked up my first trophy at my club in a local tournament, that's when I started to fall in love with the game and yeah, probably seek it as a career. I
Yeah,
was maybe 9 or 10 years old at the time.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. So that first trophy got you hooked. After that, did you know that you were going to become pro eventually?
Um, Not right away, but maybe when I was about 13 or 14 years old, I had already won a British Junior Open, and I was doing well in my age, whatever age category I was in. I was always doing well, so I thought probably I would one day sign up for the PSA and try to make it as a pro.
I saw you played, some British juniors when you were young. Did you do a lot of travel from, a very young age?
Not so much, maybe twice a year. There was this one particular year where I did 4 or 5 tournaments in one season, but then it was always the British Open and maybe the Dutch Junior Open in the summer. Uh, but as Egyptians, we used to compete a lot because we had extremely tough tournaments in Egypt. So I would be playing around 12 or 13 tournaments in Egypt, and that was good enough competition to be able to adapt to the whole routine. Um, but yeah, I think until I was 17, I probably only played a couple of tournaments abroad, international tournaments. Otherwise, it was all in Egypt.
Yeah, sure. Egypt, Egyptian players is so strong at the moment, and I'm sure you get this question asked a lot, why are you guys so strong? But, I've been interviewing, Raneem, Nora, and Gohar, and it seems like your training environment is just so intense. Every time you
True.
guys are training, your intensity is so high.
Yeah.
Would you put it down to that?
Yeah, I'd probably put it down to that as well as having a big I don't know how to put the words. It's like we have like a strong base of like a certain pool of players in every age group. We're highly competitive. We're competing against each other, and when everyone steps up, the others try to play catch up, and it's just when you have this sort of environment where everyone's being super competitive, you you have people raising each other's game all the time, and that's what happened since I was probably 10 years old. I had 3 or 4 really tough competitors in my age group, and we were trying to beat each other. So the more we train, the more we get better, the more we pull each other up. And I think that's how it worked for us. Of course, there is always the balance of not doing too much until you get injured. But I would definitely say that we, like with the tournaments that we were playing every year, as I said, 12 in like back to back during the season. In 9 months, if you play 12 or 13 tournaments, it's a lot. And you have the summer period where you train, you have 2 sessions a day, and we pretty much spend the whole day in the club. So yeah, I think we worked really hard as young kids. So it kind of gave us an edge growing up.
Yeah, sure. At the same time, that environment could be pretty intense. So,
Mm,
I mean, if you're a very chilled out, relaxed person, and sometimes you just want to go for a relaxing hit of squash, and then all of a sudden you're caught in this environment where it's very competitive. Mentally, that
yeah,
could be tough, to be able to step up each training session.
definitely, yes, definitely, and that's probably why out of 1,000 kids, you only get a few who actually make it till the end. Not everyone's is cut out for this, but when you have the select group that makes it, you have different personalities. You may find one of those relaxed kids still manage to make it with skills and probably determination. Like, you could be relaxed, but you have a purpose and you want to achieve it. And there are other highly motivated kids who are not so chilled, but they are super determined. And that's what makes a champion in the first place. You have to have some metal. You've got to be tough in order to make it eventually.
Coming through as a junior, would you put yourself down as were you very skillful, or were you just a tough trainer, or what credibilities did you have?
Well, the thing is, a lot of like the way I used to play was completely different than how I am playing now. But it all goes down to several factors. As a kid, um, I was weaker than the other kids physically, but I was at the same time super fast, and I had some really good skills toward the front, like towards the front of the court, like the short game. So I couldn't hit the ball as hard as the other kids, but I used to make them run a lot. I play a lot of drop shots and pick up most of their shots. So I would say with some skills and my speed were the things that made me successful as a junior. But when I turned pro, uh, I gained some power. Of course, I became a lot stronger and I could hit the ball harder. And I realized that my game is no longer good enough, because you can't just play to the front of the court. Everyone's going to pick up what I'm throwing at, and eventually I'm going to make errors. And it took me a while to adjust that, because I used to make a lot of errors at the beginning of my PSA career because I was still playing the way I did as a junior. But all in all, I would describe myself as like my two main assets are my speed and my touch towards the front of the court.
Yeah, wow.
Probably.
So obviously when you turned pro and you had to sort of adjust, not being so attacking, um,
Mm-hmm.
and also working on your strength. So was that two main elements? Like, did you do a lot of gym work to work on
Yes.
your strength ability?
Oh,
And
yes, definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
The gym sessions are really important, not just for me, for everyone. And I knew I needed to develop some muscles to be able to last longer on court, because it's not just about being strong, it's about having endurance. Everything, it goes into everything, the endurance aspect and the strength and even the speed. You need muscles to be able to sustain that and not get injured, because otherwise with weak muscles you probably get a lot of injuries. So I had to focus really hard on that.
So then you turned pro when you were 17, and you've also, you've got a bachelor's degree in electric engineering. So, I
Yeah,
mean, I don't
true.
know what age you went to university, but how did you keep your squash career progressing during your university years?
Well, I joined university the same time I joined PSA. It was the same year. I started both at the same time, and I had no clue whether I'd be able to balance. But I took it, day by day. I tried super hard not to, waste, uh, probably waste time doing anything else. I was only focused on those two big things in my life. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie. It was a bit hard, and I had to sacrifice one for the other throughout the whole. It was a 5-year program, so during those 5 years, I had to sacrifice squash a little bit for my studies, and then the other way around. And eventually, I managed to find the balance. It was not easy, but it was doable, and I progressed in my squash career throughout those 5 years. And at the same time, I graduated with a with good grades. So it worked out fine eventually.
Yeah, well done. um, I want to talk a little bit about, so every player has a team, that helps them. Some just have their coach, some have a coach, physio, trainer, support team, parents, and whatnot. Can you talk to us a little bit about your team and who you have behind the scenes helping you?
Yes, definitely. I have the main figures are my coach, my squash coach, Haitham Aifat, who is also Ranim's coach. My fitness coach as well, Samir El Digwi, and my family, like my parents and my sister. My sister is a squash player as well, so those are the people I turn to when I'm not feeling well, or when I'm trying to develop my game. Probably when I'm in progress trying to develop things, my coach is the main person to do that. My wife as well, Ranim. uh, those are the 6 people that I'm usually in contact with whatever related to my squash career. Um, I would pretty much say those 6 people are the most important people in my team.
Mm-hmm. And do most of them travel with you in tournaments?
Not really. Usually it's Ranim and my coach Haitham. And Haitham didn't even like he didn't used to travel with us. Maybe until 2 or 3 years ago, when we were able to, there was enough of us to pay for everything and chip in to get him in most tournaments. But it was usually Ranim and my coach on the phone whenever we could, and recently he's been traveling with us for most tournaments. So I'd say those two. My sister joined me for a couple of tournaments the last 2 seasons, but my parents stay at home, and my fitness coach only made it once to the World Champs in Qatar this year. And whatever tournament I have in Egypt, he's there. Otherwise, he doesn't travel as much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's it like? Obviously, if Raneem's there and you guys are playing the same tournament, and say, for instance, if Raneem's playing before you've got to play, I mean, do you get nervous, and how's that mentally for your preparation to get ready for your match?
Yeah, we've had this situation happen many times before, and it's always nerve-wracking watching her play before my matches. And I still don't know, like I still haven't found the correct formula, what's the best preparation I should do. But there were times where I couldn't watch her at all because it was just too nerve-wracking, and I had a very tough match. So I would skip and just follow the score from time to time. That's when I know that she has her coach with her, so she doesn't really need me. She has someone in her corner. But when we only have each other, it's a bit tough. Sometimes I had to watch and like go warm up and then come back and watch, or watch on the big screen while warming up and then do some coaching in between. It's always, it was always tricky, but I think mentally we learned how to switch off and then switch on when we're up to play our matches. So yeah, over the years you get to develop some skills to be able to get over this and just focus on your match.
Yeah, because I mean, I know myself, I get a lot more nervous watching than playing. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
true.
it's
It is
horrible.
always hard for the second one on to regroup and then go on and play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously winning the world championships, that must have been amazing, success in your career so far. And what was that like? And what's the feeling like to be world champion?
Yeah, it's I cannot really describe it. I was really over the moon. I mean, ever since I was maybe 9 or 10 years old, when I started thinking about my career in the future, that's the only thing I used to dream of. Like it's the only trophy I've ever wanted to win, and every year I would work hard to be able to get closer to this position. And then for the past 3 or 4 years, I realized that I'm very close. In 2015, I made it to the semifinals, and I was very close. And that's when I started to feel I'm there in the mix. I'm a contender, and my dream is about to like it's I'm just one step away from sealing the deal. It's just every year, when you miss the opportunity, you get super disappointed, but then you get motivated for the next one. But if it happens a lot, when you make it so close and then you don't win, you start to get frustrated and wonder whether it will ever happen to you or not. Last year I made it to the finals of the World Champs in Chicago, and I was very, very close, and I missed out again. So it was hard to take at the beginning, but then I got myself super motivated to try and make it up. In 8 months, I knew in Doha the next one was only 8 months away. I worked super hard in the summer, hoping that finally I can win it. And when I did, it was just a feeling of relief I've never felt before. It was really amazing.
Yeah, well, congratulations, and that must be
Uh,
an amazing feeling. And also, I mean, Reneem being world champion as well. So your wife,
yeah,
Reneem, and having, husband and wife duo both being world champions must be pretty cool.
yeah, it is. I never thought about it being like, I didn't know at the time that it was a thing, that we were the only couple to actually make such a historic event. We actually made it into the Guinness Book of Records, and it was a proud moment for the two of us, for sure. But I I was only thinking about Raneem being the world champ, and I wanted to win one myself, and then we could probably tease each other at home and with them. If I go one up and she goes one up, one of us was gonna tease the other, just for fun, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's pretty awesome. Um, how many times in your career have you felt that you were in perfect performance flow where everything seems to come together?
It happens, randomly. And the thing is, I've never played a tournament where I felt I was in a perfect form from start to finish. Every tournament I've played, I've had ups and downs during the tournament, but there were definitely some tournaments where I went in knowing that I was in a good form. I'd have some hiccups during the tournament, but I known that I was in a good form. I think Chicago was one of them. The world champs in Chicago last year, maybe at the beginning I wasn't 100% confident, but I knew in this period I was playing good squash. So first few rounds maybe I was slightly shaky, but when I got into a good rhythm, I was just playing really good squash day after day. And until the final, I knew the game was there. It was just a matter of not running out of steam. Maybe towards the very end I got super tired, but I played really good matches for the entire tournament.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the reason I asked that, a lot of juniors and up and coming pros, they train so hard, and then they think that every time they enter the court, they should be, playing the most perfect squash. And I try and explain
No,
to
it
them
doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Even if you're playing your best squash in training, and if you've had a couple of tournaments where you had good results, every day you wake up is a different day and different mindset, and you could you could find yourself out of rhythm, out of tune in one match for no reason. You just need to regroup mentally to be able to get over this. Even if you're not playing your best squash, you need to find a way to win the match, and then the next day you can probably get better. That's how it's always been working for all of us, I think.
that. Can you go into a little bit of depth on what a regular training week is for you in season?
Yeah, sure. Well, in season is a bit different because we have a lot of tournaments back to back. So I try as hard as I can not to exhaust myself in between tournaments, I'd try to make more maintenance work. So between tournaments, I'd probably have uh, four or five, four sessions a week with my coach in the mornings, followed by a gym session or a ghosting session. I'd probably go for 3 sessions a week for the gym and 2 to maximum 3 sessions of ghosting a week. But I'd probably keep them at 2 during the season because I wouldn't want to, do a lot of effort too much. I probably play maybe 3 games a week in the evening or 4 games a week maximum, just to stay in shape and in the momentum of playing games, and not because for me it differs from one person to the other. But for me, if I stop playing practice matches, I lose my reflexes, the speed, my racket speed and all. I just need to keep maintaining everything. uh, in the off season, things are a bit different. I work a lot harder. I'd probably wake up in the morning, go play have my session with my coach first for an hour, and then head to my club, either do a gym session or a ghosting session. But every day there is something that I'm doing for like an hour and a half. And then I go back for lunch, and then I go back in the evening for another practice session, probably a squash match with one of the pros, and maybe some light recovery afterwards. That's how my day goes every day, and I get like a day or a day and a half in the week where I have some rest, just to recover.
Okay, so most of your fitness work, would that be done on court through ghosting?
Recently, I like for the past few years, maybe 2 or 3 years, I've been working more on court than outside. I've done a lot of track and outdoors running, and I feel now that I need more of the ghosting sessions, because to be honest, I think you can acquire everything from, you can have endurance, speed, everything from through ghosting sessions. So why not just keep it on court? When I feel that I'm bored, like when this has been going on for so long, then probably I would go outside, do something different just to break the rhythm. But mostly I'd practice on court.
So an endurance ghosting session, how long would that go for, and how many minutes would each session go, like each rep go for?
I've done so much, like so many random stuff. The session would probably last around 40 minutes. I try to have longer duration, and not so short, like shorter rests but not so short. So I'd be working in the a minute and a half, 45-minute rests, or sometimes I go for 2 minutes work and 30 seconds of rest, or 45 seconds of rest, and I keep repeating those for a while. But I mix it up. I don't like it won't go for 40 minutes, like 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 30 seconds is just too much. I maybe I go gradual from a minute and 30 seconds off, and then race it to a minute and a half, and then race it to 2 minutes, and then have a 2 minute break after maybe 10 minutes, and then repeat again, going up and down. But it's always in the phase where I'm not going full speed. I'm working with medium pace and longer durations. And when I try to go into speed endurance, I up the speed a little bit and reduce the working intervals, maybe 45 seconds and 30 seconds on and 20 seconds off. That's how I go. I keep reducing the time and the rest, and upping the speed.
Um, for any advice, for a junior who wants to take on squash and maybe turn pro eventually, what advice would you give to them?
The thing is, because as I told you in my story at the beginning, the only thing that got me hooked was when I started to see, the results of my training. Every kid, some kids love squash from the first sight. As soon as they hop on the court, they love it. They don't want to leave. And some other kids are not so motivated. But I would feel that if with some training, if you exert some effort, and you start seeing the results, you start seeing the progress yourself, and you start beating kids you used to lose to all the time. This gets you addicted, you know, in a way. And then for myself, I would tell the kids who start loving squash, it's so much fun, you know, when you start traveling, you know, you get to see the world, you get to experience a lot of stuff. It's not just about the sport, you get to learn so much through this beautiful game of ours. So many life experiences, and it's not just about the, you know, the game and the tournaments. So I definitely advise, you know, any kid who picks up squash that it's a fun ride, and yeah, really worth taking for sure.
Well, thank you for your time today. It's been great to
My pleasure.
yeah, get a little bit of to know how you train and what, you know, what it takes to become world champion. So thanks for your advice and all the tips, and
My pleasure.
hopefully someone yeah, all the juniors that are watching this can take some good tips on.
I really hope so. Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa, for having me, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Tarek.